Greetings and salutations, friends, and welcome back. We are back for another round of our coverage into the strange world and subculture of free energy. Is free energy possible? I'd like to think that it is. And for a time, being an avid sort of electronics computer geek, I experimented into some of these things for some time, building things I found on in books or on YouTube, or plans that I bought from eBay. Most of them did not pan out. But tonight we're going to talk about there's really two energy devices that I think show tremendous promise and could be called a free energy device. Tonight we're going to be talking about crystal power cells, made famous mostly by John Hutchison, who claimed to have invented these crystal energy cells. However, there are some other inventors, most notably Bedini, who are also credited with the invention or the discovery of these crystal energy cells. To those watching, most of the people who are watching today probably are no stranger to some new age theories that crystals hold some kind of power or energy. It's a common belief in the new age or spirituality community that crystals hold some kind of special energy, be it healing energy or radiant energy. This is a common theme in many new age sort of spiritual circles. In fact, at most UFO conferences, you'll find a table of somebody selling crystals. At most spirituality conferences, for sure, you're going to find many tables that are selling crystals. And our friend Jason Quidd sells crystals. I find the connection between somebody making a free energy device out of essentially crystals and the new age spirituality sort of belief that crystals hold some kind of power or energy to be an incredibly interesting thing. I mean, why is it that so many people in the new age community think that crystals hold some kind of power or energy? And is that proven by these strange crystal power cells. Now, I was going to play an entire explanation on how to build a crystal power cell. However, I decided that that would take way, way too long. So I apologize, but you're going to have to settle for my very quick explanation. First of all, you need two separate metals. Most people use copper for the outer ring and a magnesium rod. And you can get copper tubing at any Home Depot. That's where I got my copper tubing to build mine. Or, you can order copper tubing anywhere. The magnesium rods are easily obtained in the form of magnesium fire starters. That's what I used. You get some of these magnesium fire starters. They're differing lengths, but some of them are 3-4 inches, some of them are 8 inches. I got 8-inch ones and then cut them down, which is fun because if you try to cut a magnesium rod, you get sparks everywhere and can cause fires. So that was fun in my shop, trying to hack away at these magnesium rods with a hacksaw. So basically, you have the copper tubing, and then you place a mixture of different chemicals. Most people are using John Hutchison's mix, which is a mixture of Rochelle salts and Epsom salts. And then this mixture, the dry mixture, is heated until it sort of boils, I suppose, and then it's placed inside the copper rod. This does not look good, but this is my explanation for putting the chemicals inside the copper rod. Best I could come up with. And then the magnesium rod is inserted down into it, inside, not touching the copper. The outer copper is then tapped, or you wrap a wire around the copper tube, and you wrap a wire. The magnesium rod should stick out of the top. Here we go again. Stick out of the top of the copper tubing, and a wire is wrapped around that. From that, you get cathode and anode, or positive and negative. Forgive me, I may be wrong on the terminology, but the copper becomes either the positive or the negative, and the magnesium becomes, again, either the positive or the negative lead. Now, there are 100 different mixes for the crystalline structure mix, chemical mix, that goes inside of these things. Many people have done an incredible amount of experimentation into different mixtures. John Hutchison's formula also calls for a doping agent, where you will file off a little bit of silver and a little bit of iron pyrite into the mixture before you melt it and create a crystal power cell mixture. Others have done experiments that sort of prove that you don't need to heat the mixture, you just need to mix it. And it works just as well in many cases if you heat it versus if you do not heat it. There's lots of variations into these crystal power cells. There's lots of experimentation being done to try to increase either the voltage of them or the milliamps that you get out. Now, it should be noted that these crystal power cells have some strange properties, and one of them is if you build a tiny one, the size of a AAA battery, it will put out 1.5 volts and a very small amount of milliamps, 5 to 20 or 5 to 40, maybe if you're lucky, milliamps, a tiny, tiny amount of power at 1.5 volts. But interestingly, if you build a huge one, you still get 1.5 volts and a small amount of current. I think the larger ones put out more milliamps than the tiny ones, but the voltage is always 1.5 amp. Now, we're gonna watch a short video, and I'm going to cite fair use, of John Hutchison's sort of girlfriend explaining the mixture that is used. We're not going to watch the entire video because it's really long video, but I will cite fair use. This is a transformative work. We're educating the public about John Hutchison and his crystal power cells. I also just want to mention that I am aware of John Hutchison's various scientific claims, the Hutchison effect, and various other things. Tonight, we're going to do an entire other show on the Hutchison effect, which is him floating things with ultrasonic waves, or, bending and melting metal with ultrasonic waves, moving objects. That's the Hutchison effect. It's an entirely different subject and worthy of its own show here. Tonight, as far as John Hutchison is concerned, we're solely going to be focusing on his take or his claims about these crystal power cells. So please bear with me. Oh, you know what? Actually, I don't think we're going to. One second, friends. Let me just check in with my tabs that I have found. Okay, we could get rid of that one. Okay, so first we're going to share a video of John Hutchison talking about these crystal energy cells and what they do and what they're composed of and how he created these crystal power cells. 1 second, friends. And this is a transformative work. We're citing fair use. We're educating the public. This is fair use. 1 second, friends. Let's try that again. I always have to do this. Make sure we have the audio. There we are. Fair use.
Using common minerals, I'm able to capture the jitter of the zero-point energy that's taught to many physicists around the world. And I'm able to create cells and structures similar to this one here that actually produce power for long periods of time. As you can see, we're getting a reading here of almost half an electron volt from this pile of crystals. And this is steady and has been tested up to a year's time and under stress tests also.
Yeah, I tried to find similar minerals, tried to find similar crystals as he describes here and in other places, most notably a lecture that he once gave, and I was unable to do that. The crystal power cells I was able to build and work as described, but I could never get a power reading out of a pile of rocks or crystals. Just wanted to note that.
So, which made me decide to then, of course, mount the same material in cylinders. And these cylinders here, of course, are various types of cylinders. One being an artillery shell or aluminum cylinders. I could take this one here and do a reading on him. And actually, you cannot see that, but we'll try here. Okay, can we tell what we're getting? About half a volt, about half electron volt. This guy here. Different cylinders, of course, there are different mixes in there, and I found that that some of the cylinders are not as powerful as this material here, or this very tiny one here. Actually, this has more power than this large artillery shell unit here. And what I want to do, of course, is to demonstrate it in the sense of it making actual power. That means to turn a small motor. And that can be done. I've accomplished that many times. We're just taking a reading here on the very small one, 1 cubic inch of raw material from the earth, still powering for over a year. Basically, I want to use these as replacements for batteries, which I think I can achieve. And to demonstrate even more so, I'm looking for a hot cylinder, which I'll call a hot one.
Yes, and just an item worthy of note is that for a time there was a Japanese company that was working with John Hutchison to create basically batteries like we're used to, AA batteries, AAA batteries, D batteries, based on this technology. And I'm not sure why, but they never came to market. I know they invested with Mr. Hutchison, but I don't know, or he said that this Japanese company was investing with him, but we never saw them come to retail market.
Well, maybe this one, which is a combination of material from this little cylinder back into here. Instead, actually, we can take a voltometer reading on him and see if he's up to par. We get 1.635 electron volts, so I think that he's lively enough to power this little motor. We'll find out. So I'm holding this motor here. I attach a lead to the base. Get him out of the way. Okay, I'm attaching this to the base here. Another lead to the top, and it should spin, which it does. So yeah, basically, this kind of material powering motors. Of course, it's a very small motor at this time, but scaled up in larger amounts of material can power up to several horsepower if needed.
And also of interesting note, people have created these power cells and powered a small motor in their shop as a technology demonstrator for literally years. And they kept running for years on just these crystal power cells. That's what hooked me and got me so fascinated by these. I was able to get some of these crystal power cells to power a small LED for years on end.
So that basically is sort of the secret to the energy crisis, in my opinion anyhow. It's using ordinary materials, non-toxic, that will interface with zero-point energy in space and time. Now we're taking a reading of one of the most powerful ones, the 1.635 volts, fluctuating a bit, but very steady and strong. And that was the one that powered the little motor. There's quite a host of that.
And just for those that don't know, 1.5 volt is the voltage of an average battery you may be used to. Not a 9-volt battery, but the barrel type, any of the barrel type, AAA, AA, C, and D. It's 1.5 volt is what is in an average battery.
Natural, non-toxic minerals in there that activate. Much similar to the Moray valve of 1927, where Moray used natural minerals and got a lot of power in the range of about 5,000 watts usable power at 110 volts at 400 cycles per second.
He mentioned Moray here, and I tried to find some sourcing, but some people seem to think that John Hutchison did not invent this at all, but it was Moray's discovery of these salts and minerals being able to generate power. And Moray did it to a much larger scale. And then that maybe Mr. Hutchison did not discover this effect, but in fact rediscover a previous inventor's work in the form of moire.
Long wire antenna. Using basically the same kind of principles. Sort of a shake and bake recipe. It's extremely simple, ridiculously simple. And I do that. I simply just put it in, heat it up, shake it around, and let it crystallize. Once it's crystallized, then it captures and conforms to the 0 point energy that's around all of this.
We've heard mention of 0 point energy from all these different free inventors, and this goes back to sort of Nikola Tesla and the original pioneers of electricity and magnetism, who believed that there was an ether all around us, and we are literally swimming in a sea of energy. And it's been said if we could capture that 0 point energy, the volume, let me see if I can say it right, the volume of a teacup could boil off all the oceans of the earth. That's how much energy is in blank space or the ether. I'm not sure that I believe that, but that's the basis of many of these free energy inventors' belief. And again, this all goes back to Nikola Tesla and some of the early pioneers' belief in something called the ether. Energy all around us.
And actually, I find the simplest of recipes the most powerful. Meaning this little fella here, where I tried to advance the field strength or the energy, however, failing in a few of these cylinders, which are quite, as one would say, it would only put out millivolts. This one here is another powerhouse unit. Being smaller, actually, they tend to get stronger. Again, it's reading about similar to this pile here. And again, I should take a reading on this because he's quite interesting to a lot of people. Being the smallest of them, that would be approximately a third of a volt. Always steady, always strong. I've used direct shorts on these kind of together for days at a time, and they still keep on pumping out energy. Some explanations, of course, can be found in solid state physics in the old ham radio magazines and transistors were first coming out, and that will help the viewer to see some of the technology in those days, and for the future can see also the possibilities of what they call space charge and junction barrier type of technologies and crystals. The interesting aspect of this technology is that these cells, crystalline cells, can be put in series and parallel to add up voltage and also add up amperage. So
and this is my interest. I wanted to create a bank of these things that would create, let's say, 12 volts, 2 amps to charge a 12-volt battery and perhaps run my cabin. I have a unique situation in my cabin in that I am there for the weekends, or maybe long weekends lately because of COVID, but it would give the batteries 4 days. So I would like to create something like this to trickle charge the batteries at the cabin. Never got that far, only made a bunch of single ones.
Theoretically, if you had a room or refrigerator full, you could power a lot of different types of appliances. You can have 110 volts if you wish, if you had them all in series and in parallel for the amps. That's well, also they cooperate with one another, going in series and parallel. This makes it quite practical.
Yes, but one note that he did not mention here is that if you connect these in either series or parallel, they must be built nearly exactly the same. In other words, he couldn't take the small one and the big one and connect them in a series. It would work, but not right. It just wouldn't work right because you'd have one that's a half a volt and one that's 1.5 volt. And generally, they don't work well if they're different sizes or different mixtures inside the cell. So if you want to create a crystal battery bank, I suppose what you need to do is create a bunch of crystal batteries that are exactly the same. And that's what I failed to do because I had all different size copper tubing, different size magnesium rods, and I wanted to try different mixes to see if I could get more voltage or more amperage out of them. So I was never able to create a bank of them. But I should mention that I just ordered the parts and supplies to begin making these again. I was going to wait on tonight's show until I could show you mine, but I dug around in my garage and I found like one that still worked. And so I'm going to create a video and we'll put it here on our channel of exactly how to build one of these things.
Plus, they're very cheap to make, and they are basically from just nature's own raw minerals.
If you are fascinated by the amazing technologies and concepts you've just witnessed, now you can get even more valuable information.
Oh, yeah. And one thing worthy of note is that the free energy proponents or supporters are always selling a DVD or a book. So this is from a website which is selling a DVD, was at one point, I don't know if they still are, selling a DVD on all different free energy topics and devices. It's sort of a similar subculture to like the UFO subculture, I would say, where they have conferences and they have everybody selling a book or a DVD and they have lectures. Very similar to the UFO community or the consciousness community, in that it's a subculture of people that really believe these things are possible. I have a few more things that I would like to share. Then again, we're going to cite fair use. This is a transformative work. We are educating the public. There's another video that I found of John Hutchison. I don't know. Let me just make sure that this isn't like, oh no, this is different. Yeah, so this is definitely a different video. But again, we're going to cite fair use. This is a transformative work. We're educating the public about crystal power cells and John Hutchison. And I want to apologize. Earlier on Twitter, I called him Hutchinson. Pretty common name, Hutchinson. But his name is actually Hutchison without the N. So I apologize for misspelling Mr. Hutchison's name earlier on YouTube. 1 second. And folks, while we do this, I'm going to post the link to our live stream on Twitter. I apologize, I have not done that yet. A little rush to begin at our 9 p.m. start time tonight. So this is fair use. This is another video on John Hutchison. This is called John Hutchison Crystal Power Cell.
Well, I kind of think of myself as a discoverer of nature's secrets in a way. Nature's secrets are quite exotically fantastic things. I have to know why things work. Coming into my weird and wonderful world of technology and kind of neat stuff. It's a bit of a squeeze, you know. By the time you get everything working and fired up, you're pretty well exhausted from climbing over things. And I got complaints from the neighbors across the street that I open their doors and by themselves and that kind of thing when I'm doing experiments. So lucky they haven't come around with torches like in the classical Frankenstein movie and tried to burn me out.
Yeah, and for those that are unfamiliar with John Hutchison, he's sort of famous for having this huge collection of surplus electronics, everything from sonar units from submarines, radar units from the Army that was retired, power cells, weird, huge capacitors from the military. He is if nothing else, he is an incredible collector of strange technological items, which he sort of hoards up and does his experiments with.
We have here a nice old machine gun sitting here on the floor.
He's just got a machine gun.
Many times I like to sort of work on experiments some of this surplus equipment. My main interest has been a lot of physical effects such as anti-gravitational research, time distortions, and power sources.
Well, I got to back that up because did you see that? There's like all this stuff piled around what I think is his bathroom. There's like a toilet in the middle of all this electronics gear. And that's crazy.
And power sources.
Yeah, look, is that where he takes a dump? Like he's got to work on electronic equipment while he's taking a dump? Wow. You can tell he's not married, right? This is his bathroom, I guess. I don't know. That's really strange.
It's finding things like gravimetric stresses from the moon, bits of zero-point energy, and it's finding things like heat, vibration, and other things. I would safely say it's an energy scavenging unit.
Yes, and again, this sort of piece on him is mentioning the ether. There is energy all around us just waiting to be harnessed. And I'd really like to believe that is true, especially given current problems with oil production and fracking and destroying the environment for fossil fuels.
I could care less what anybody thinks. I don't care. Everybody has their right to their opinions, so if they think I'm a flying nutcase, cool, that's all right.
Yes, and we've mentioned this before. Almost every one of these free energy inventors always either they discuss Nikola Tesla or they were a huge fan of Nikola Tesla. And I've got to say, being a science and computer nerd, of course, I'm a fan of Tesla myself. And a lot of them sort of give credit to Tesla for some of their ideas.
More so than being tied down. I've been offered so many jobs that no, I prefer my freedom where I am in charge, even if it's being dirt poor. The idea occurred to me about the ancients working with Egyptian batteries. So I came up with this dirt cheap idea of common minerals treated in a certain way that produce endless electricity. It's called Petrol electrical effect.
And just a note, there is no real term. The term that he just mentioned, Petrol electrical effect, is one of his own invention. I'm not able to find that term anywhere in, like a standard physics book or a book on electronics.
Okay, this one's got a lot of silicate, different types of exotic silicates in it.
It's quite simple. It's you're grinding up rocks in that, and they turn into small platelets, which conforms to the Casimir effect, where you have energy between two little metal plates. And that produces electrons which accumulate to the post here.
This, I just want to stop it here. When I was giving my explanation at the beginning of our broadcast, I forgot to mention that after you create this, you have to give it a shock charge. Most people just apply 12 volts to it for a very short time, a few seconds, and then it energizes the cell, and this cell continues to produce energy, theoretically forever. Okay, friends. So along with these, I have to say that these two videos that we just witnessed, and again, this is transformative work, I'm citing fair use for sharing them, is kind of, those painted him in a very good light. But there are other videos where he is literally cross-dressing and pretending to be a woman while explaining how to build these things. And that, of course, that's going to cause some strange controversy. Yeah, definitely gonna cause some strange controversy. 1 second, I'm gonna find. I have to go into my history. Sorry, friends, just bear with me. One second, I think I've got it. Nope, that wasn't the one. Just bear with me, friends. Should have X'd it out. I apologize. Well, we'll go on to. So there's various videos of him like literally in drag. It's enough to say that. So there's one video where it's sort of his like new age girlfriend explaining how to build these, and then he's in drag going, "Yay, free energy!" And this, of course, has caused many to say that he's just not credible. You know, like why would he be in drag? Promoting these, you know, in drag, sort of laughing like, yay, free energy, promoting these things. These two videos that we watched earlier really painted him in a sort of, you know, painted him in a very positive light. Okay, I found it. Good, I found it. All right, we're going to cite fair use, and this is transformative work. We're educating the public about John Hutchison and his crystal power cells. 1 second. Okay, fair use. We are going to share this and cite fair use. We're educating the public, and this is a transformative work. Wrong one. Let's get rid of that one. All right, I have it now. Okay. And we're gonna go through the first few minutes of this. This is quite a long video, 22, 23 minutes. But we're going to go through just the first few minutes where the mixture of how to make the crystalline mixture is explained.
Some crystal power cells. And we start with Rochelle salts and Epsom salts. Now, Rochelle salts are made from cream of tartar and baking soda. And there are recipes on the internet on how to make your own Rochelle salt. When we weren't getting Rochelle salts because we bought it off of eBay, and sometimes they have it and sometimes they don't, we've been able to use the cream of tartar and the baking soda and heat it along with the Epsom salts, and we still do get a power cell. Not quite as strong, about 10% less in power than the Rochelle salt when we get it directly from manufacturer.
Yeah, and I just wanted to mention that I tried making my own Rochelle salts, and I got 20% less power than the ones where I just bought the Rochelle salt. You buy Rochelle salt on Amazon or eBay.
So if you can't get the Rochelle salts, go on the internet, look for a recipe for Rochelle salts, and you use cream of tartar, organic cream of tartar, like from your co-op, and you can get a bag of it, and baking soda. So I'm going to take 1 part Rochelle salt and 2 parts Epsom salt. I'm going to put it in this glass container here because that's what I'm going to use for mixing. Now we're going to only use a very, very small portion of our mixture, but I need to dope it. And we only use a very, very tiny amount of doping in the power cell mixture. And so since I'm going to be only making 1 tiny cell, to be able to do that with the doping is a little bit difficult. And this way I have extra materials for making more cells.
So let's mix it up.
There's John Hutchison.
Let's make some cells.
Let's make some power cells.
So,
and I just want to mention that she's mentioning this doping, which is really just filing off a little bit of silver, iron pyrite, which is better known as fool's gold, and I think calcium chloride. But many people that have experimented with these have determined that that is not necessary at all. In fact, all you need is the salt mixture of Epsom salts and Rochelle salt. I used iron pyrite and silver and calcium chloride because I wanted to follow. I thought this is the person that has got the best results with these things. So I followed this recipe pretty exactly, or as exactly as you can. They don't give any amounts for the doping agents. She just sort of files it off into the mixture, but we'll see that coming up.
we're going to take 1 portion. This is just a 1/4 cup measure. It's a little bit less than a 1/4 cup. And we put it into the container. The Rochelle sometimes will come lumpy. If it comes lumpy, just pull it up and just squish it with your hands because you want it smooth, because we're going to try to make as smooth of a compound as possible.
Another note, many experimenters have found better results. Epsom salts is not a powder. Epsom salts is it's chunky. So better results can be obtained building these crystal power cells if you put the components, the Rochelle salt and the Epsom salt, through a grinder. I used a coffee grinder and I made 2 different cells exactly the same. In one, I ground the ingredients, and in the other, I did not. I got 10 or 15, maybe even 20% better results from the cells where I ground the mixtures. So just a note, if you're going to attempt this, you may want to grind both the Epsom salt and the Rochelle salts to get better results.
Epsom salt. Epsom salt. Look at this. Epsom salt. Woohoo!
We're going to take...
Yeah, not exactly the serious scientist, which you can see why to regular scientists, this guy is sort of worthy of mockery. Like I said, the first few videos, he seemed like very serious scientific researcher, even though he's self-taught, but there's so many videos of him just going kind of nutty, in drag. Epsom salts, let's make power cells. Crazy.
Smash it down so it doesn't have the lumps in it. Okay. 1. 2. Go get a spoon and mix this up.
Cue the sci-fi sound effects. That must be the crystals powering up, right?
Get that incorporated as much as you can. It's like you're cooking. All right. Now our doping agents. We've got calcium carbonate.
I'm sorry, I said calcium sulfate. Calcium carbonate.
And we're going to
And again, there's no set
Crystal.
amount. They just sort of file a little bit off into there. And that's kind of what I did and what most people do. They don't give like a measurement of
So you
how
can see
much of
there's
each of
this
these
fine powder that's coming off.
so-called doping agents you're supposed to include.
This is a silver medallion that's 99.99% silver.
Yeah, and I couldn't find silver that pure. So for mine, I used a silver coin. And you can get a silver coin on eBay. You can use a quarter, a dime, old quarter, old dime that's silver. I don't know. That seemed to work for me. I don't know that the silver has to be 100% pure. And again, many other experimenters have done these mixtures without any of these last three ingredients, with just the 1 part Rochelle salt, 2 part Epsom salt, and they got the same results as they did using the doping agents versus not using the doping agents. I tried building 2 identical cells, and in one I placed some of the doping agents filed off, and in another I just used the 2 parts Rochelle or excuse me, 1 part Rochelle, 2 parts Epsom salt, and got nearly identical voltage readings off of the 2 identical batteries, one with the doping agent, one without. Most people experimenting with these crystal power cells seem to agree that these doping agents do not affect the performance of the cell. They may not be necessary at all. And I've never heard an explanation of what these last 3 ingredients are supposed to do to the mixture or what purpose they're supposed to serve. But yeah, just wanted to mention that.
You have to be careful with this, especially the smaller cells, because your cells can short out by having too much silver or too large of a particle of silver in. Iron pyrite, also known as fool's gold. So how do I know how much to put in here? I don't know. I've made hundreds and hundreds of these and experimented with various compounds to put in. And this is our little magic piece, which is Galena. Normally you're not supposed to hold this with your hand because it does contain lead.
Why do you need that?
And Galena acts as a radio receiver.
Yeah, I did not get Galena or use Galena in mine. And most cells that I've seen, it seems to me that a lot of experimenters, because it's easy to get, use iron pyrite. I still have iron pyrite, and I guess it can't hurt, so I would probably include it in new cells I make just to try to follow the recipe. Can't hurt, I suppose.
I can look in the top and see the Galena and the other compounds on there. I'm going to wash this and wash my hands and be right back.
We're going to
Drying
skip
off.
ahead. We're going to skip ahead because this is pretty long. So the mixture is placed into any suitable heating vessel. She's using a soup ladle here, and then the mixture is heated together and mixed together.
Put that out of my way. This will be heated up, and then I will need to take my piece of wire. This is the galvanized wire that's been coated in the sodium silicate. And once this is heated to the correct level, I'm going to spin it around inside of here and then place it into the tube. And we'll have actually lots of extra compound. So I'm ready. It's two-handed. Let's start the stove.
Again, we'll fast forward a bit. And I just wanted to mention that I tried both the dry method, which is to just mix the dry ingredients together, do not heat the ingredients. And I tried not using just the dry, not ever heating or, like she's doing here, 2 identical cells, one with heating and one without heating the mixture. and got nearly the identical voltage readings from each. I think the cooked mixture was slightly 5% better voltage and milliamp output. So is it worth heating it? I guess if you want to make the very best crystal cell that you can, and I think it can't hurt. I would think that just the act of heating may mix these various compounds together better, right? And according to John Hutchison and others, this crystallizes the crystal mixture better.
As soon as it clears out there, almost there.
Yeah, and I should note, just heating this stuff is it's not easy to do, because you're going to ruin whatever you're using to heat this stuff up. Just a note of caution, don't get in trouble with your wife using her nice pots trying to make this mixture. It's very easy for this stuff to boil over, and then it becomes solid and stuck to the bottom of the, or burn and be stuck to the bottom of whatever vessel you're heating it in. You have to be very careful. So less is more, slow and steady with heating this stuff. Cue the new age music, proving that this is magic.
Okay, that's about it. I'm going to swirl this in.
And I should note that this is sort of a different method than I and many others have used, or John Hutchison has described in his lectures and interviews in the past. She's creating a very, very tiny cell. And again, it's two different kinds of metal. You don't have to use copper and magnesium, though most people report the best results from using copper outer tube and a magnesium rod in between this crystal heated mixture. She's using a different method, which is to take the inner rod and just wrap it around in this heated mixture. And then she's going to jam it inside this other little tube. Again, that's two different metals that she's using.
And we go into the cell. Now, as we notice, we've got some of this coming out. We're going to try to move it into it as much as possible. Come down. Come back for a little bit more.
Yeah, and another point that's important is that the outer ring, for example, if you're using a copper outer ring and the inner rod, if, for example, you're using a magnesium rod, they cannot touch. So there has to be enough of the material between them that they do not touch.
There she goes, right there. That little blob in and push down, pushing with your thumb on the plug.
We're going to fast forward to...
So right now we're showing 0.748 with the outside being our positive and our inside being the negative. Well, that even likes it even more. So we're dealing with heat right now. We're dealing with any moisture that might be having a chemical reaction with especially the copper. And what we want to do is just give it a short little hit with the power source. And by doing so, we're setting up the alignment of the crystals. And then we're going to let it rest and see how she does.
Yeah, so most people charge these things for a short time with a higher voltage, say 12 volts. And according to this lady and Hutchison and others, that somehow aligns the crystalline structure inside the power cell and sets it up to gather the energy from the ether and generate unlimited free energy forever. Though, again, it's a very tiny amount of voltage and a very tiny amount of actual milliamps being generated. It's much less than an average battery that you may be used to, like a AAA battery or a AA battery or a C battery or a D battery. But they seem to last forever.
Pick our.
Yeah, 12 volt DC,
Slap on
applied
the
for a few
second.
seconds.
There we go. It's easier. Coming off at 1.6, 1.59. So it's going to settle down. All that's doing is just setting up information.
Yeah, so once charged like this, generally most of these batteries put out 1.0 to 1.7 volts, much like a standard battery you may be accustomed to.
To the cell as to how it's supposed to be sending its charge. Okay, we're going to go back to the stove and I'm going to show you what you don't want to have happen. This is what happens when you go too far on your compound. Is that, see, we have this nice taffy and we're able to work with it. And notice the white that's building around the edge.
Yeah, so don't heat it too much. We'll
It's
skip
gone too
ahead
far
here.
when how we make crystal power cells. And we have made hundreds and hundreds of different crystal power cells. Let's look over back at her cell and where she's sitting at now. She's going to be settling down.
1.2 volts.
Generally, what they do is they settle down to their voltage that they were before you put them on the power supply. Power supply gives them a boost of energy. All we want it to do is line up the crystalline structure, and we generally will end up with something around 0.5, 0.7 volts on something that is this size.
I like this free energy thing. Do you?
Oh my God.
People say,
That's a serious researcher, folks.
what is your amperage? Well, your amperage is going to vary wildly, and it's determined by the shape of the cell. The flat cells, which we'll be showing some of those, that you can actually build between pennies or between different pieces of flat metal, are going to have voltage but extremely low amperage. The ones that carry amperage are going to be your cylinder sizes, the cylinder shapes like this one here. Let's make sure I hang on to that. If I go and check the amperage on this,
I love the sound effects.
well, this guy got a nice little shot coming off with 7 milliamps off of the charge. You will not maintain that. I'm very definitely sure that they will not. This is coming from the charge. They've gotten their amperage. The key thing is to.
We'll skip ahead
They
again.
are very particular. The cells are very particular, and when they work together in series or parallel, that they're exactly the same.
Yeah, I mentioned that before. If you're going to gang these together in series or parallel, they have to be built exactly the same, with the mixture being exactly the same, or it doesn't work out well.
I love what you're doing. It's awesome. Free energy for everybody. Woohoo! Yes, even Carla can have a free energy device.
And we have some extraordinary power cells that are not these little cylinders, but they are totally different forms. They give off AC and DC current at the same time. And one of them actually created a force field, is all I can say it was. And I'll show you that in a clip later. And mutated and melted a bunch of aluminum.
She never showed us.
So
they never
these
showed
are
us the clip of the
extraordinary
force field.
pieces of technology, very simple to make, and they really are our way of breaking free of power grid.
Could be, friends. So I just wanted to play that video or portions of it so that we see why it is that why it is that Mr. Hutchison sort of gets his balls busted for being a weirdo and not a serious researcher. Dressing up in drag and joking around about what may just be a technology that could free us from fossil fuels is not a good way to get people convinced that you are genuine or that you are credible, I would say. But I gotta say, it's that very video that made me make my first crystal power cell. I have just one more thing to share. And I wanted to mention, I'm sorry we're going a little long in our presentation this evening. I promise we're going to give some time for the live chat. Right after this next piece, I have one more thing to share. There is an experimenter on YouTube that I've been following for quite some time. The name of his channel is Laser Saber. And if you like technology, if you like electronics, lasers, free energy stuff, you would like his channel. I'm going to cite fair use again. In this video, it's a short video. We're only going to be sharing a portion of it. This experimenter, Laser Saber, shows the effects of his crystal power cells that have been going for 4+ years. So, and another note, sometimes I get slagged by people who are like, every show, it's like you show all this interesting stuff, and then at the end of it, you go, but it's not real, it's all fake. Well, if I had to choose so far, there's really two free energy devices that I think have absolutely can prove, to me at least. I mean, I'm not a physicist, but there have been two devices that really impressed me, and that is these crystal power cells and a Bedini motor. We're going to be covering the Bedini motor in a future show, which is another device that seems to create more energy than is put into it. And interestingly, Mr. Bedini is also involved in these crystal power cells. Some people say that it's really his invention and John Hutchison lifted it. Others say that Hutchison invented it and Bedini ran with it. Who knows? But I wanted to show the proof that these things work for long periods of time, generating this tiny amount of power. This is something that has been proven time and time again by experimenters all over the internet. And that's something that I find fascinating and compelling because science, real science, must be repeatable. If some crackpot says, I've created this free energy cell and it'll run for 5 years or it'll run for a year with no external charge or power after it's initially created, and no one can recreate it, you can't really trust that person's claims as being factually accurate. However, in the case of these crystal power cells, and you can look on YouTube or forums on the internet dedicated to energy research, hundreds, maybe thousands of people have created these crystal cells and shown that they work for years once created. So we're going to cite fair use, and I'm going to share this video from Laser Saber, where he shares some of his thoughts on these crystal cells. And that video is titled, Crystal Cells Have Been Going for 4+ Years. We're citing fair use. I want to thank Laser Saber for allowing us to share some of his research. Great channel. Please check out Laser Saber if you like lasers and technology. That guy builds awesome stuff. I've been following him for a long time. This is a transformative work, so we're educating the public. Let's take a listen.
Okay, so this is a quick update video on the crystal power cells. And if you've followed my YouTube channel or gone to laserhacker.com, you've probably seen these over the years. They were hooked up to a live video feed for years on end. This one's run for 4 years, over 4 years, over 3.5 years, and 1.5 years on this one. I'm going to go over why I've had failures with some of them, everything I've learned about them up to this point, and I want to actually take these things apart, cut them open, and look at them later today. But before I do that, I just figured I'd shoot a video, show the current update. I'm speaking loud because the 3D printers are all up and running. I've got a lot of future upcoming projects over there. But yeah, let's go over these. So this one's been running 4 years. Like I said, it's been in a low intensity mode, just a low blink mode like that. I'm just got it cranked up here to show that it can still output some current after 4 years. And when I say 4 years, that's pretty much 24 hours a day, every day. There were occasions in the winter when the humidity get low or different things of that nature that I'd add a few drops, so it might be down for a day or two.
And I just want to mention, if this doesn't seem impressive to you that you can run a little light from one of these batteries for 4 years, try hooking a standard battery that you buy at Walmart, one AA battery, up to a little light, and tell me how long that battery lasts. It's not going to last 4 years. It's not going to last a month, I don't think, depending on the current draw of the light that you hook up to it. So to me, this is proof that these things work. I'm not sure, but I'm almost positive that somebody has basically proven that they've had one running a small, tiny motor for 8 years. That's impressive, friends.
But even if you subtract a month, it's still a very impressive runtime. And during that time, the internal pressure pushed the magnesium rod right up out of the top of the pipe cap. So very, very interesting how much pressure you have. And I think that's a key to what makes these things keep running, year after year. So let's go over here and take a look at this one. This one's been running for 3.5 years. And during that time, I haven't had any reed switch failures on this one because I've got one of these dancing solar flower circuits in there. Check out Lid Motor's YouTube channel. I think he's drawn a schematic of essentially that same circuit out and uses it to drive a lot of his little motors. But during that time, this one's been maintenance free. And the real thing bringing this one to an end is, again, the crystal cell growth. You can see the magnesium rods. They may have come up out the top just a little, but the bigger issue is this internal pressure ripping the seam. And you can see the fresh copper color there at the top of that V, showing the very fresh copper as that seam is ripped. That I've just noticed that over the last week. So a lot of internal pressure. And I think that's the key that keeps these things going. The internal crystal growth keeps growing and driving its way into the fresh virgin magnesium. So rather than the magnesium building up, a layer of crud or corrosion that would protect it, it's just constantly getting pressed into by the electrolyte itself and the crystal growth. Anyway, that's my...
Yes, and I just want to mention that many people cap these so that the pressure is greater. And I've seen various people, if the copper outer tube erupts like this, then they patch it with another piece of copper and the thing keeps running. So maybe after 3 or 5 years, these things may begin to break down, but that can be alleviated with some maintenance, to take the caps off the top, clean the new crystal growth off of the top of it and put the cap back on. I've seen people do that and various other things. So they're not without problems, but with normal sort of maintenance work, you can keep them running.
Theory. Now, in this one, I called this the 100-year motor. I was much overly optimistic. This motor has run for 1.5 years so far. During that time, I've had multiple reed switch failures. So I had to, today it stopped again because of the reed switch. And, in transportation, one of the coils broke. So I've updated the Easy Spin design here since I've made the first one. And it's a little stronger in the way I build these now. But, I've had reed switch failures there, and I had major failures on the crystal cells here. And I think the reason I had such extreme failures on these ones is back, if you look at the video when I built these, I put these caps, I took PVC pipe that I sanded down to fit between the copper pipe and the magnesium rod, and I pounded these in under a lot of pressure to lock it all together. And I think what that did is just allow the pressure to increase like a firecracker in here, not with a quick explosion, obviously, at the time, to just rip a seam top to bottom.
It's not a fun mad scientist lab unless you've got shit exploding in it. I just want to mention that.
And you know, the way I've got these hooked up, I'd soldered on these wires to bring me off my copper contacts, and I connected them up to in series to the magnesium rod. Well, when it ripped up the seam, you know, it broke those wires. I had to jump over with an alligator clip lead. It's really a mess. So that's the reason this one's come to an end. You can see this one again, ripped top to bottom. So you're dealing with a lot of pressure. And that's one of the things to keep in mind if you're building crystal power cells. You just got a lot of internal pressure. So anyway, I'm going to take these. This motor is an interesting little thing. I never did a YouTube video on it, so I'll just explain a little bit about it here. It's got a single flat magnet, and you can see that magnet right there, 3D printed hemisphere on each side of that. And the coils are kind of interesting. They go this way and then they cross over, so you can see them crossing there. So you essentially have a situation in which when the coil fires, you get a pushing and pulling effect, very similar to the easy spin. So it's just an experiment I was doing. Again, I'm driving this one with one of the dancing flower circuits. I have a drawer of these. I took them apart, I don't know, 3-4 years ago to do some experiments, but probably back in the time I was building that motor. Okay, so I took apart one of the crystal cells from...
Yeah, and I wanted to share this because I never got to cut one of mine open, and I think it's interesting to see the interior of these things after they've been, you know, a few years old, and to see the crystalline structure inside.
The motor that ran for 3.5 years back here. And what I found inside is actually really, really amazing. I see lots of very good magnesium material. And you can see the crystal, you know, growth along here, and very, very interesting. So this is the edge of the magnesium rod right there, but you know, just a ton of magnesium left. So
and again, this is good because we can show, like I said, there's the copper outer ring, and the crystal structure goes in between, and then the magnesium rod goes down the center. You do not want the magnesium rod and the copper touching, so there has to be enough material around it. And people have done various experiments with huge amounts of this material and don't seem to get better results with huge amounts. In other words, if you had like a 4-foot wide piece of copper tubing and you filled it with this crystal mixture, and then you had a 1-inch wide magnesium rod right in the center of that, doesn't seem to do any better. People have built huge versions of these things out of copper bowls and with varying results.
For running, 3.5 years to have that much, good quality magnesium down through the core tells me this thing would run on and on and on and on for many, many more years. So, this one's blowing out the side. These two look like they're fine. I may just put them on the shelf, clean them up on the outside. And
yes, and people have theorized that the way this works is that somehow this crystalline structure is borrowing electrons from the copper and the magnesium. And people have reported that the magnesium rods may be losing mass over vast amounts of time. So they may not work forever, but they may work for 20 or 50 years if properly maintained and they don't explode on you.
Who knows? Maybe those ones will even go into another project because there are many more years worth of runtime on this. So that's really encouraging. Very, very interesting. I was really expecting to have a lot more deterioration to the magnesium rod inside here. I was expecting to be, really pitted and eaten into and almost non-existent, but it's still in great, great shape. So anyway, folks, that's why you experiment. That's why you open stuff up. Very, very fascinating.
Yes, and you can visit laserhacker.com or visit his YouTube channel. I highly recommend it. 1 second. So this will conclude our presentation on crystal power cells. But I do want to say this. I have recently ordered some parts and materials, and I will be making some new crystal power cells. And I will be sharing a how-to video on how to make a crystal power cell so you too can have free energy. Here's the deal. this device works. I'm not a physicist. I don't know why it works. I'm not even sure how it works. One thing I am sure of, however, is that I was able to power a light off of one of these for a year and a half or something like that. You couldn't do that with a standard battery that you bought off the shelf at Walmart. It would die after a few weeks or a month. The only reason that I took the light off of the power cell that I was running it on in my shop is because I was moving. And yeah, and now it's in my garage somewhere. And like I said, I did go looking for, my garage is a mess. I went looking for some of these crystal power cells so that I could demonstrate them. I found one that worked, but time being what it was for tonight's broadcast, I decided we'll do that at a future show. And I'll also be making a do-it-yourself how-to video of how you too can make a crystal power cell. And if there is interest, we'll do additional research into these crystal power cells. Here's what I will say. Researching free energy devices is a lot like researching UFOs. You'll find thousands of fraudsters, hoaxers, bullshit hucksters, and just fake people selling fake plans, fake shit that doesn't work. Everything from they like spinning mercury too, just like the UFO people. Spin mercury in a vacuum tube and you'll get free energy, or power a generator with nothing but magnets and all of this different stuff. And much like the UFO community, you'll find thousands of fake videos. You'll find thousands of people selling shit that doesn't pan out and doesn't have evidentiary or scientific support to prove their claims. Doesn't stop them from selling shit, though. They're all selling something. There are just a few out of the thousands of these devices I have looked into. This one is one of the good news ones. Here's the good news. The good news is I believe it works and will generate power for years and years, maybe decades, if the cell's properly built and properly maintained. Here's the bad news. They generate a tiny, tiny, minuscule amount of power. And so, as people have described, they need to be ganged together in a series or in a parallel in order to, for example, if you wanted to generate 12 volts, you'd have to, string 4 of them together or whatever, generate 3 volts, string 2 of them together, generate 6 volts, 4 of them together, and to generate 12 volts, 8 of them together. And I did attempt some of that and had some major successes and then major failures. And then I was moving and playing around with crystals in my basement just wasn't a huge priority for me for a time. I had 6 months worth of work to get our house ready for sale, our old house. And sort of just lost interest. Well, I didn't lose interest. I lost the time to have the interest, if that makes sense. So I'm going to be returning to building some of these things, and I'm going to share the results with all of you. I'm happy that I can show you something that works, at least appears to. And there's so many smarter guys than me are building these things, and most agree they work. You just have to remember the good news and the bad news that I mentioned. The good news being that they appear to work and will generate power forever, seemingly. The bad news, it's a tiny, tiny amount of power. I did some math when I was really excited and interested in these crystal power cells. And I determined that in order to have a really, really good amount of power, you would need a box that would basically be the size of a household refrigerator and hundreds of these cells ganged together in both series and parallel banks in order to generate, let's say, 12 volts, 15 amps, which would be a good amount of power to charge a 12-volt battery bank and then run an inverter. Would it be enough to run a house from? Probably not, but it would be enough to run my cabin from for sure. And so I'll be returning to sort of looking into these things, sharing the results with you guys. If there's interest, I may offer some of these crystal power cells that I'm going to be making as prizes or gifts or something of that sort. So I'll turn my total attention to the live chat. Thank you all for being here. I know tonight's show was not planned. Oh, and I just wanted to mention too, we were going to do a panel show last night, and we didn't because here's what happened. I chopped wood for like 8 hours, like with an axe, and I was like stacking wood, chopping wood, sawing wood for like 8 hours. I was so exhausted that I got done. It started getting dark. I sat down on the couch at the cabin and I fell asleep and woke up hours later. And I went, oh shit, I guess I'm not doing a show. So I apologize. We'll do a panel show this week for sure. This week, hopefully this weekend for sure. Seems to be the weekend is better. Weekends seem to be better for those panel shows. So turning my attention to the live chat, if you have comments or questions, KelTruth77 is here. Shout out to KelTruth. This reminds me of the Baghdad batteries they found. Yeah, and Hutchison seemed to believe that there was some connection between the Egyptian Baghdad batteries and these crystal power cells. Okay. Karma Gray. Oh, this guy's here. Stephen is currently doing a science experiment in his cabin. It's called Puffing Up a Storm. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Oh, is that a reference to marijuana or something like that? Yeah, I believe that stuff is medicine. So if I am puffing, it's medicine. Some people have heard me mention that I used to, because of my brain aneurysm, they gave me a lot of opiates, and everybody knows the detrimental long-term effects that long-term opiate usage can have on you. But I'm happy to report that I am opiate-free and much prefer cannabis to opioids. Genocide, always up for a panel show, so Saturday works for me. You got it. Just for you, Genocide. Another Genocide show about nothing. I think maybe we'll title it Another Genocide Show About Nothing. Okay, yes. Six's design. Parallel will add up amperage. Series will add up voltage. You're right. But interestingly, Six's design, let's say that this thing puts out 0.30 milliamps, right? Or 30 milliamps. If you gang together them in a series to make 12 volts, it'll be 12 volts, but it'll still be 30 milliamps. So in order to get the amperage up, then what you need is multiple banks wired in a series to get 12 volts. And then you take those banks and wire those in parallel to increase the amperage or power output. Yes, Karma Gray says, maybe I lost time when I went to sleep and got abducted by aliens. And when they took you up in the spaceship, they did some weird proby stuff. Karma Gray's, anal probes, right? This is a high class show. We won't be talking about anal probes. Yes, Blind Dave Crypto also says parallel increases amperage, series increases voltage. Curious how your tests go. I'll be reporting on them. We'll show. I mean, I don't know how I'm going to do this here yet. I got to get like a table or maybe move the webcam back so that I can show some of these things working, or I'll make videos of them in an actual workshop and then just share the videos here. But yeah, I'm happy that I can show you. We've called this series "Is Free Energy Possible?" And I'm here to tell you, I believe it is. And one of the reasons I believe it is because of two things: the Bedini motor and crystal power cells. Out of thousands of free energy devices I've looked at, those are the only two to me that seem to have proof that they actually work. And it's interesting to me that mainstream science pretty much ignores them. But I am going to reach out to a physicist friend, and some of you know him, who I'm talking about, alien scientist, Jeremy Rise. I'm going to reach out to him after I do some further experimentation and building of these crystal power cells, because I'm not a physicist. I'm not sure how this works. There's various theories of how these things work. Some people seem to think that the crystalline structure is stealing electrons from the copper and the magnesium somehow. And there's various other theories of how they work, but I'm not a physicist. I have no idea. I can tell you that if you build it, generally the way that most people describe how to build these things, they work, and they work for a long, long time. We heard this laser hacker showing that he had a motor running on this thing for 4 years. That's amazing. 4 years. And again, it's a tiny amount of power, but it's power and it's free after you spend $100 for materials. Well, it's not $100, but like, copper's not cheap. Magnesium rods are like a few dollars a piece. So, and the Epsom salts and Rochelle salts are fairly inexpensive. Rochelle salts are more expensive, so it's good that it's 2 parts of Epsom and 1 part Rochelle, because Epsom salts are a lot cheaper than Rochelle salts. Truth says it's hard to kick opiates. So, well, I didn't take them long enough to have a problem, really, Truth. And luckily, well, you know what? I didn't want to go off of them, and my doctor was like, "You've had enough. You don't want to keep taking those. We'll find you some alternatives." And that was the right thing to do, because otherwise I would have been, I didn't like them though. Like after I had my brain aneurysm, I was on, I believe it was Percocet, and I finally had to return to work. I had a small business. I had a little store inside this place, and I went to work and I took the pills, and I was slurring, talking to customers like badly. And I was like almost falling over. They had a bad effect on me. Did they stop the pain that I was in? Sure, but they made me half a zombie. So I never liked them. But I can see, I never understood why people really liked opiates or heroin. But when I was in the hospital, they gave me a big shot of morphine. And then I went, oh, now I understand why people like heroin, why people like opiates. I never understood why anybody would like that feeling. If you're ever in the hospital and get a shot of morphine. I got a big shot of morphine. If you're ever in the hospital and you get a big shot of morphine, you'll gain a whole new understanding as to how and why people can get addicted to that form of drug. Truth, with some honesty, she says, I love opiates, so I have to stay away from them as well. Yeah. I still want to do a panel with you guys. So what time next weekend? Pacific Standard Time. A panel about nothing sounds great. Yes, you are most welcome. It's going to be 7 p.m. on this coming Saturday night. I'm going to make a poster and graphic for it as well. 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time this Saturday night. So that would be what, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, your time. Jonah Side says, magic. Dennis Koch says, that's oxycodone. I was on oxycodone for a time, but then I think they changed me to Percocets. In any case, I think that opiates, especially long-term use of opiates, like if you have brain surgery, you're going to have pain in your skull for like a year. So they don't really know what to do about that. So they just go, here, take these pills. Hope it works out for you. And you're not like, shooting heroin after we cut you off of these pills or whatever. Luckily I didn't like I especially didn't like Percocet. I seem to recall that the oxycodone just made me sleepy, and it did take the pain away, but then I was unable to function at all on the oxycodone. Like I couldn't really walk around or work or do anything. So then they were like, oh, well, we'll put you on a lower milligrams and we'll put you on Percocet. And the Percocet like made me sick to my stomach. It made me slur my words and feel like weird. And I didn't like the Percs at all. So, but that was a good thing because that helped me to find alternatives. Sixth design. Car batteries now will, in a lot of cases, outlast their warranty, but they do gradually lose amperage over time. An almost dead battery burns cells, meaning it's no longer 13.5, rather like 12 volt. You know what, Sixth Design? I'm a big fan of old car batteries. I got a bunch of them at the cabin. In fact, anytime somebody is like throwing out a car battery, I take it because it might not be great, right? It might not be up to like when it was first sold, but it's enough to put a little solar panel and throw it somewhere like, by the woodshed and run lights at night. It's perfectly fine for that. I've had this car battery somebody gave me for 3 years now, running the lights in the woodshed. I like old car batteries. And now, of course, I have people that see that and they go, you can't use a car battery with a solar power setup. You really need a deep cycle marine battery. And yeah, that's ideal, but a car battery works and it's free. So Plan D says, bonjour, everyone from Montreal, Canada. Plan D, I guess that you are new here, or maybe you came over from Jean-Claude's show, since you're speaking French and talking about Canada. If in either case, welcome. You are most welcome here. Welcome, Plan D. Oh, Jonasite says, I'll be working, but I'll work on it. Don't worry, it's going to be a long stream, so we'll probably be going when you get done. Kel Truth asks, did your brain aneurysm cause your eye issues? Yes, the brain aneurysm that I had was right behind my eye. And it was unruptured, so I had to have brain surgery, and they coiled it, which is kind of like taking a hose with a bubble in it, right? And taking a piece of wire and wrapping it around the hose. That's how they fix a brain aneurysm that hasn't ruptured. But the problem is it left me with something called third nerve palsy, which is paralysis of the eye. In my case, I don't have total paralysis of that eye. I have about 50%. And again, the reason for the glasses, for the people that are always going, why is he wearing sunglasses inside? He looks like an asshole. I have half a paralyzed eye. But one of the issues is that, for example, if I go to raise both my eyes, the paralyzed eye only raises halfway. And it looks terrible, especially on camera, or I look extremely cross-eyed at times. I prefer the glasses just so I don't think about it, worry about it, or be self-conscious about it. And really, anybody that doesn't like the glasses, click off, watch some other asshole that doesn't have glasses and a paralyzed eye. I'm good with the glasses. Yeah, take those pills and change your whole brain pattern. You're probably right. I think long-term opiate use, for sure, it's got to do something strange to your brain and your those opioid receptors and everything. Same with eye surgeries. 38, 4 implants, diabetic retinopathy. Yeah, I've heard of that. Retinopathy is a form of paralysis in the eye, isn't it? Paralysis of the retina. Correct me if I'm wrong, Blind Dave Crypto. And good to see you back. I'm always happy when we get a new user and they come back again. Wow. It's like, it's easy to get somebody to come here once, but if they come back, I go, wow, that's great. So welcome back, Blind Dave Crypto. Karma Graves, I'm watching this live stream on my Opera browser. Yay, who uses Opera? I don't know, but Opera is included in my operating system now in the new version, which will be coming out shortly. I hated to do it. The first version did not have Chrome, but so many people cried and complained, why isn't there Chrome? That I put Chrome, SeaMonkey, and Opera in. So now there's like 5 or 6 browsers included with Altos. Yeah, Dennis says, too young to have a brain aneurysm. Yeah, this is 10 years ago that happened. And, but I take it every day as a gift now because when something like that happens to you and you have a like I had a doctor come into the room when I was alone. There was nobody visiting it. Like my wife, she was my girlfriend at the time. She was there most of the time, but he kind of waited. Like he kept looking in, and he waited for her to leave, and then he came in and he told me that like this thing could rupture at any minute. I don't want to scare you, but if you have unfinished business or like somebody you need to make peace with, just in case, you should do that now because the surgery may not go well. This thing could rupture before we get to it. And if it ruptures, what happens is all that blood hits your brain and you stroke out and die instantly, which was scary as hell to hear. And especially, I felt so young and immortal, really, still invincible. You always think you have time. To me, I take that brain aneurysm as a gift. And that gift was, it taught me that I'm mortal. And it's stupid that something in life has to teach you that. But the interesting thing is that, my wife hates when I talk about this, but I think we were together for 13 years before we got married. And I asked her to get married every once in a while, but she never wanted to. And suddenly I had this brain aneurysm, and then suddenly, yeah, we better do that, And then we had our children. So I kind of always think of alternate timelines, right? Like I may be the lucky one. I got the good timeline, Dennis Coach. And in this timeline, the brain aneurysm did not rupture. I didn't die. And I got to live out, hopefully, what will be a full life and get married, have children, live many more years, and appreciate every day as a gift. In some other timeline, maybe one of me was not so lucky and that thing popped and I died. Interesting philosophical thoughts about life, death, mortality, and this mortal coil I have had since then. Mark Tirana, the bloke from Oz, is here, says, "Good day, everyone." And of course, he's from Australia, where they say good day and have the best shrimp ever. Mark Tirana, I hate you because I love shrimp, and I want some of those 4-pound massive shrimp that you guys put on the Barbie. I want some of that. You should send me some. Okay. Yeah, Jean-Claude is a gentleman. Hard to find those nowadays. Yeah, it's so funny, too, because he's got some whack. Look, I'm going to say it. Jean-Claude, don't be offended, but some of your guests are fucking wacky. Some of your guests are nutty. Some of your guests are crazy. And, I got to bust his balls because somehow Jean-Claude is the king of finding hot, crazy psychic chicks and making them guess. We need hot, psychic, crazy chicks. So please, that reminds me, we need new guests. And we're going to have some new guests soon. So if there are any hot, crazy psychic chicks, email me at truthseekershow@gmail.com. We want you to be a guest here on Truth Seekers. We need some hot, crazy psychic chicks. And to be honest, I'm tired of Jean-Claude having the monopoly on having hot, crazy psychic chicks as guests. It's not fair, Jean-Claude. You're taking all the hot, crazy psychic chicks. We want some of the hot, crazy psychic chicks, Jean-Claude. So let them email us here at truthseekershow@gmail.com so that we can. How the hell am I supposed to compete with Jean-Claude? He's got all the hot, crazy psychic chicks. I don't think that's fair, Jean-Claude. Send some of them our way. We like hot, crazy psychic chicks. Okay. Let's see. Jean-Claude, I like perks, Norks, oxys, all of it. I have extremely bad scoliosis. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I've been paid 100% of the time. So docs threw that stuff at me my entire life. I'm now on Suboxone permanently to stay off opiates. Good for you. I hope you're doing good in your recovery. And yeah, consider cannabis. But you gotta listen. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not giving medical advice. But if you have pain issues, and I do, I have this strange, gnawing, weird pain. It's called neuropathy. It's literally some of the cells in my nerve endings are dead, and that causes pain. constantly behind my paralyzed eye. Well, it's a form of neuropathy. But anyway, if you have pain issues, don't resort to opiates. Find yourself a good cannabis doctor, a doctor that is, listen, a doctor that is not familiar with cannabis to me as a treatment form is not a good doctor. But there are doctors, at least in my home state, who specialize in treating people with cannabis. Find a good cannabis doctor. They can tell you all about what specific strains, dosages, different things that you can try. And I guarantee you, if you get the mixture right, like if you get the dosage right, it took me a long time because I don't want to be impaired. So I have to go really like right to the edge of impairment to deal with my pain issues. Get yourself a good doctor that is familiar with cannabis, or get a doctor that specifically is a cannabis doctor. That's what I'll say. Especially if you have pain issues, they love helping people get off of opiates and having more natural treatment for them. My doctor checked in with me sometime after, checked in with me with a bunch of times actually. She kept calling my cell phone, asking me how I was doing. And the funny thing is like I gave her like one consultation fee, and to get certified for the state for the medical program. She kept calling me, checking in with me, and eventually was really happy because she said, you're like one of my success stories. You don't need any of this stuff. And it's not even about opiates, even just taking over the counter. Like if you're taking 6 Tylenols a day, that'll destroy your stomach and cause liver damage. So to me, cannabis, you look fabulous with your glasses. Thank you. I appreciate it. I like the glasses, but still think an eye patch. I'm gonna do it just for you, Jonas. I got to order some eye patches. I wore an eye patch for a while, and actually, I wore an eye patch on both sides because there was some belief from some of my doctors that if you patch the good eye, the paralyzed eye may come back stronger, and some of the paralysis in the eye may decrease, and this and that. We tried, didn't really work out. And I even at one point had something called a lid lift, which was supposed to open up the paralyzed eye because it looks bad. One eye is this big, the good eye is bigger than the paralyzed eye. The paralyzed eye won't open as much. And that causes issues with your range of vision. So they do this surgery where they lift your lid, which is, I guess it's a form of cosmetic surgery. But in my case, it was because of my vision that I had to have that done. Oh, I'm way behind in the live chat. We're going to try to catch up. 6 is design. Too much of anything is bad. Moderation is the key to longevity. I agree. Double vision, early sign of stroke, and other surgery. If so, actually, that's the reason why my doctor, first I went to the doctor and my eyes were fine, and he thought I had a sinus infection. But then one of my eyes went weird and I started having double vision, and he knew right away it was something neurological. And in fact, he put me in his own car and took me to the hospital. That's a good doctor. And yeah, that the double vision eventually after the surgeries eased off. And that's another reason why I wore an eye patch, because for months after the surgeries and everything, even after I was out of the hospital, 6 months, I think, after the surgeries, I had bad double vision. So I couldn't walk around or do anything unless I patched the one eye. The glasses are your thing. You should probably brand it. Yeah, some things become a trademark, and it does for me. Oh, Plan D, started watching you on your midnight show. Yeah, cool. I'm thinking about posting those to this channel, but I think that might be confusing for some people, thinking it's a new show or I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, be sure to follow me on Twitter. Bloke from Oz says, heavy stuff, Stephen. Yeah, Mark Tarana, I wouldn't, well, would I change? The only thing I would change is not having a paralyzed eye. But when you can walk away from a life-threatening illness, I can really say I wouldn't really change anything because it changed my attitude about life. Good way to look at it, Stephen. Oh, Jean-Claude is here. Great story about timelines. Thanks for sharing, Stephen. Puts things into perspective for the audience. Love you, man. I was just bitching about you, Jean-Claude. Did you hear me? Listen, we got to talk, bro, because I don't think this shit is fair. For those that don't know, Jean-Claude has the monopoly on crazy hot psychic chicks. And that's not fair, right? We need guests here. How come I can't get any crazy hot psychic chicks on our show? It's because Jean-Claude has all of them. Every crazy hot psychic chick, even just hot psychic chicks. Maybe some of them aren't crazy. Some of them are crazy. But still, Jean-Claude has all the hot psychic chicks. And it's not fair, bro. You got to share the crazy hot psychic chicks or just share the hot psychic chicks. What am I like, we're chopped liver here? We can only get the ugly psychic chicks? That's not fair, Jean-Claude. You got all the hot ones. I want in, bro. Hook a brother up. Send them my way. We did this earlier. They gotta email me at Truthseeker Show. We'll book them as a guest. We'll thank Jean-Claude if they come on for sharing his hot psychic chicks so that we can have hot psychic chicks on our show. I'd like hot psychic chicks on our show predicting the future or giving people readings. We would love that. But we can't because Jean-Claude is hoarding all the hot psychic chicks. And that shit is not fair, Jean-Claude. What is it? Just because you're Canadian and speak French, they like you better? That's some bullshit, Jean-Claude. It's not fair, bro. It's not fair. Yeah, hot psychic chicks. He does seem to pick some nice ones. Yeah, I'm right. I'm not crazy. Six's design. He does. He's hoarding them. He's got the monopoly on all the hot psychic chicks on the internet. Look at his show. Every other show, he's got a hot psychic chick. That shit is not fair. Yeah, maybe he has a type. He does. He likes hot psychic chicks. Can't blame him, right? I always wondered if a girl really was psychic, what would it be like dating a psychic girl? Because she would know all the shit you were doing, right? You're thinking about another woman. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. I know. That would be a nightmare. Well, see, I'm going to share this. Oh, yeah. And go visit Jean-Claude at Beyond Mystics YouTube channel. Like, comment, and subscribe. He talks about a lot of cool stuff. He talks about a lot of crazy shit, too. Listen, I love the guy. He and I do not agree on a lot of stuff, but we're still friendly, and that's a good thing. We can agree to disagree on some of the crazy woo-woo shit that, I just don't, some of the stuff I go, yeah. Kel Truth, you have to act like you actually believe the crazy hot psychic chicks, and they will come on. They don't want you to ruin their game, Yeah, listen, I will be if somebody's going to come on as a guest, I will be extremely respectful. I may ask some questions, I may express some doubts, but if they're nice enough to come on my show, I will be very respectful, and I will, I'm not going to trash them or anything. I may say, I don't believe that your powers are genuine, or I'm a little skeptical of your claimed abilities, but I'm going to be nice and respectful. And have an open mind. Hot psychic chicks projecting stuff. Yeah. Yeah, hoarder here. Yeah. Jean-Claude from Beyond Mystic hoards all the hot psychic chicks. I don't think it's fair. I don't know who can I register a complaint with like the hot psychic chick network that Jean-Claude is sucking them all up and not letting us have any of them. It's not fair. It's just not fair. Who's that? The one of them is Jenny Moon, right? I think he's got her. He's got this Aurora. He's got I don't know. He's got 4 or 5 of them. That's not. We don't have one here, Jean-Claude. That's some bullshit, Jean-Claude. Yeah, it's a cool show too, though. Yeah, and I've seen Six Design and some of my other friends that are here in his live chat. Not that I'm jealous. A little jealous. Hot psychic chicks usually have major baggage. All women have baggage, major. Well, some more than others, Dennis says women can read men's minds anyway. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. And friends, I'm gonna check in with our PayPal. I got to do the something went wrong. Come on, bro. I don't know what it is lately, but PayPal does not like just letting me in. It's always like, prove you're not a robot. Pick out all these pictures with fire hydrants and shit. Like, come on, it's me, really. Okay. I just wanted to check the activity, and I wanted to ask somebody on November 11th donated $40 to us, and thank you very much. Their initials are RH. I don't know who did that, and they did not include their chat room user ID. I don't want to shout out or thank them by their real name. But if somebody could please tell me who gave a $40 donation on November 11th, somebody's got to own up to it eventually, right? I just want to give you my sincere thanks and shout out your chat room ID so that the chat room knows who gave such a generous donation of $40 to our show. And we'll get the begging bowl out today because, we'll get the begging bowl out because, oh, that's the wrong one. I didn't mean that. I don't really mean that. I mean, I don't really mean that. You're not leeches if you're just watching my content for free and never gave me a single dollar and enjoy my show. But yeah, that's an inside joke. And it's really about another show host who was bitching and crying and complaining that nobody, get up off your asses, donate, stop complaining. And so we made a joke about people being leeches. But I will give the standard spiel and say that we need your financial support to continue this show. Please consider a PayPal donation. You could do that as a one-time donation. There's a PayPal donate on our About section. Or you could become a Patreon supporter if you want to see our show continue. There's links for both in the About section of our channel. Patreon, it's $1 or more. Oh, and that's another thing. Let me see. I want to shout out 2 new Patreon supporters. If I can get into Patreon, let's see. We've just had 2 new people sign up to support us on Patreon. And how Patreon works is you give me $1 or more a month. It's up to you. The minimum to sign up for Patreon is $1, but it lets you give me whatever you like. For example, you could decide. I'm trying to see my notifications. Okay, so he was using his real name in our live chat last night, or not last night, our last show. So I feel okay that I can shout him out by the name that Patreon gave me. So thank you very much to new Patreon supporter Brent Musselman. Brent pledged $1 a month, which is the minimum buy-in. That's all we ask. But if you want to be really generous, you can give me $2, $10, whatever you like, $15. And somebody on November 13th, first initial D. They only gave a first name. I don't want to shout out the first name so if somebody can tell me who did that, I'm going to message them and find out what their chat room user ID. But for now, $15 per month pledged by first initial D. We appreciate it very much. So you see, you can give $1 a month. You can give $15 a month. It's really up to you. But the minimum $1 buy-in gets you all the Patreon benefits, and we give a lot of benefits. I noticed, and I'm not slagging anybody, but I noticed that there's some people that just take money on Patreon and then they do things like, I'll follow you on Twitter, or they do nothing, or, I don't know. It seems to me that a lot of people on Patreon give very little. I try to give as much as I possibly can. So, for example, this last month, you get access to my free Linux operating system and support. If you have trouble getting it working, if you're a Patreon supporter, you message me on Patreon, I help you figure it out. We do an audio journal every month, and everybody gets that. That's on Patreon. This last month, I put up my drunk stream. I I don't know what to say about that. A lot of people thought it was funny. I took it down. I was a little embarrassed because I was slurring my words and I was not really coherent, and I thought it was embarrassing, but people thought it was really funny and were upset that I took it down. So I put it up on Patreon. So if you want to see me 10 or 12 beers in before I start a show, you can sign up on Patreon. And also the Mind Hack Project. I gave away to the Patreon supporters 3 hours and 20 minutes of audio from the Mind Hack Project. I keep on saying this. I hope that's going to be done soon. It's going to be a retail product for $50. But if you're a Patreon supporter, you're getting it free in pieces. And when it's completely and totally finished, I'm posting it for the Patreon supporters for free. So there's a lot of Patreon benefits. That's my begging bowl speech. And also you could send a PayPal donation and include your chat room user ID in the note line. And what that does is it's called our Not So Super Chat donations. So what you do is you click About section of our channel, or right in the main channel in the upper right hand corner, there's a PayPal donate button. Either way, you push that donate button, and then make sure you add a note and write my user, your chat room user ID here, because I don't want to shout out your real name. So for example, Jonaside, who has thrown me some bucks much more than once, my favorite PayPal donator. Every once in a while, Jonaside has a couple bucks and he throws me a couple of bucks. So what you would do is you would say, you add a note and you just say, like, it's Jonaside, and then whatever you want me to shout out or say on the show, and I will do that for you and offer you my kind support for your generosity, or my kind thank you for your generosity. Yes, and Six's design, here it is. This is the Patreon. So yeah, and we'll put the begging bowl away. Sorry, friends, we have to continually remind people that I hate bringing that begging bowl out sometimes, because honestly, it's good to remind people that you need, we could use some financial support, but it's also a reminder to me that I'm broke. Every time I get the begging bowl, I'm like, damn it, I'm broke. Let's get that begging bowl out and hope the universe hears me. And that's all that we could do. And shout out to Paranormal Hood Live is here. Is that Smoke King, right? I always forget which one is which. I think Paranormal Hood Jiggy is Paranormal Hood Jiggy. Paranormal Hood Live is Smoke King. Oh yeah, it is Smoke King. Out of Mind says hi, Smoke King. So shout out to Smoke King. Smoke King, I want you to come on and we'll talk about Coral Castle. Get with me and let me know when we can do that. Sometime in the next week or two, could we do that? Because I know you know all about it and you cracked that case, and I don't want to misspeak, or I don't want to waste the time doing all the research to prove what you've already got. So we'd like to have you on as a guest. You need to be careful. Jean Aside will ask you to say some weird shit. That's what you get. I'll say what. Listen, Renee Ogden and Jonaside can ask me to say anybody can ask me to say anything. You can write, I love to suck dicks. Shout that out. And I will, listen, if you give a PayPal donation, I will say, I love to suck dicks. Whatever you want me to say, Dennis Coach, it's called marketing. I'm not sure. Hit up my email. Put your email in the live chat so that I'm sure that I have it, Smoke King, because I'm not sure that I have it. And I always get confused between you and Jiggy. Oh, there we go. SmokeKing420ph@gmail, right? All right. I can definitely make it out. I can definitely send you an email. Let's schedule it. And I know Smoke King is the Smoke King, and he might smoke a lot and forget to show up. So I'll have to have an alternate show. No, I don't think he might be on the CPT though, right? Like Jiggy says, CPT, color people time. So you might be late or you might not show up in time, but I don't think you would leave me hanging totally for the show, but I'll have a backup just in case you smoke too much and fall asleep or something like that. Smoke King. Oh, that's Mrs. Jonaside. I didn't know that. Shout out to Mrs. Jonaside. Yeah, I was wondering. I'm like, but okay, so I don't think, Renee Ogden, that we have seen you here in the live chat before. So welcome very much. Shout out to Renee Ogden, who is Mrs. Jonaside. Thank you for coming and supporting our show. It is nice to see you. Nice to see you here. Yeah, I thought you were new, but I wasn't sure. And sometimes people are like, "No, I've been here 4 times before," and I'm getting hesitant to go, "Oh, a new user," right? I've been more careful, right? Yeah, and Success Design shared the Patreon link. And okay, Dennis Coach is right. It's just that I prefer the term marketing to begging. Yeah, but I'm honest. So it's the begging bowl. And it's also a Buddhist philosophy. One of the greatest lessons I've ever learned about being humble is from a Buddhist monk. I met these Buddhist monks who all lived in a communal home together, and they literally have a begging bowl. Like, they put this big basket on their porch, and people come and bring them food. And that's what they eat. In fact, that's all they eat, is whatever people bring them. And so, knowing this, before I went there, I asked somebody that was familiar with them, more familiar than me, what should I bring? What do they like? And he said, oh, they really like fresh fruits and vegetables. So I brought them a big bag of fresh fruits and vegetables. But then I was talking to the monks and I said, what's it like living like that? Like, you only get to eat what people bring you? And he said, every day I spend all my time praying and meditating, and food is just a secondary thought. I'm happy if I get to eat anything, a cup of rice for the day. But it's nice when we have more than that, What an attitude of gratitude that guy had, and taught me about humility. Like, imagine that you can only eat what people bring you and donate. Otherwise, you don't eat, That's a pretty scary thing. Stephen, if you could put some donate links in your default setting for live streams for description, that might help a bit. I got to do that. You know what? Success Design, I will nominate you if you like. I'll give you I'll give you my YouTube I'll give you the password, and you can copy and paste it in all of we were up to like 70 videos. So that might take some time. Actually, I shouldn't throw that on you, but if you want to help, bro, I'd be happy to talk to you about that. Otherwise, I will get to it. Yeah, Dennis Coach equipment costs money. Yeah, all the stuff here was paid for. The lights, the backdrop, the microphones, the webcams, the headphones, everything here except for the computers. I'm kind of a computer guy. I can pick computers out of the trash and make them work. So everything here except for the computers was all paid for by the PayPal donations and the Patreon supporters. And it really, really did help. I would have been months waiting to save up my pennies to get all the stuff to even start the show. We would have been 4 or 5 months behind when we did start. Anytime after 8 p.m. is good. All right, great, Smoking. We'll schedule it. We're going to do the Coral Castle show. And I've already got a short presentation on the Coral Castle. And my angle was it's a mystery, right? But I think you can help us with that mystery. So what we'll do is I'll do a short presentation, maybe a half hour on Coral Castle, and then you could come on and share your research, and that would probably shed some light on it. And I saw, but I missed I missed it. Oh yeah, Renee says I usually watch with him. Good for you. That's awesome. I'm glad to see you in the live chat. Blind Dave just joined Patreon. Awesome. I really appreciate that. That is very nice of you. I sincerely appreciate every single person that gives the $1. And whoa, Blind Dave Crypto with very generous $5. See, you don't have to just give $1. You can give $5 a month or whatever you can afford to help me. And that is much, much appreciated. The $1 is the minimum. So thank you, Blind Dave Crypto, for your kindness, your generosity. I am especially have a lot of gratitude towards people that give more than the dollar. I love everybody that just gives a dollar, but you people that go, I'll give a few more than a dollar or whatever. It means a lot to me that people value what I'm here working on. And I really appreciate it, Blind Dave Crypto, especially being such a new user. He must have some faith in me, or he's been watching all the replays and went, this guy's worth it. In either case, thank you, Blind Dave Crypto. I really appreciate that. So shout out to Blind Dave Crypto, new Patreon supporter. So we've had 3 in the past week or so, and that's really good. We're edging back up to, I know it's a terrible economy, so I think some people dropped off for a while, especially when I was slacking off and taking 4 days off at a time. But we're basically back to 4 or 5 shows a week. That's my commitment. We'll see what they do. Yeah, they change studio too often. Just when you get used to it, they change it again. I must have missed something. Oh, YouTube Studio. Yeah, you're right. So it's difficult. You got to edit each individual video and then copy and paste the links, right? It's really difficult to do that. Coral Castle is a great topic. So many theories. Yes, and our friend Smoke King from Paranormal Hood has got a really great take on it because he did a lot of research into it and may have cracked the case of exactly how Coral Castle was built. And it's not. I don't want to ruin it, so we'll save it for a future show. Smoke King's going to come on and he's going to talk about all of his research into Coral Castle. I'll give a presentation and then we'll bring him on to talk about what research he did and what conclusions that he came to. You're going to like, this is going to be a good show. And I wanted to get both Paranormal Hood Jiggy and Smoke King on, but I thought it'd be better, more bang for the buck, if instead of having them on together, I can have one show with Paranormal Hood Jiggy and one show with Smoke King. So please, Smoke King, when you talk to Jiggy, tell him I'd like to do a show with him. He can pick the topic or we can just have a general talk. He and I agree on a lot of stuff. Stephen, can you shout out my most favorite UFO researcher, the late Mr. Stanton Friedman? God bless you, sir. Rest in peace. Yeah. And for those that don't know, I once got, I interviewed Stanton Friedman 3 times. I've only posted 1. I have 2 interviews somewhere in the bowels of my computer that nobody's ever heard. I've broadcasted one of them on the Midnight Hour show, and you can search Stephen Cambion and see my old YouTube channel and hear the interview that I did with Mr. Stanton Friedman. I got to become friends with him, and I used to call him every once in a while, every week or 2. We were talking about my research into the Bob Lazar case and other cases, Barney and Betty Hill, and he became really a good friend, and I was really sad to see him die. But God bless him, he died doing what he loved. He didn't retire. He kept saying he was going to retire. He died on the way back from a UFO conference where he lectured for 3 hours. God bless Mr. Stanton Friedman. We miss you. Yeah, and here's Paranormal Hood's YouTube channel. You guys, if you like my show, would probably like their show. They're once a week on Thursday at 8 p.m. I highly recommend it. I try to be there. Smoke King, donate to Steven so he can pay my appearance fees. Hey, bro, listen, you owe me one, though. Karma, right? I was on your show. I didn't get an appearance fee. It's just appearance fee shit. I must have got robbed when I was on your show because I don't remember a fucking appearance fee, bro. No. 1 for 1. Yeah, it's karma, bro. I did your show. Okay, Shepard is asking, and Shepard, I'm not sure if I've seen you here in the live chat, or maybe I have. I apologize if I'm mistaken, but in either case, welcome. Glad to see you here. What are some other future show topics coming up? Well, we're going to spend a little bit more time on free energy. We're going to wrap things up with Bedini and a few other things that I think show promise or are interesting as far as free energy and free energy research. Then I've got I've got a show planned about the Cash Landrum incident. It's been planned for quite some time. Cal Korff is going to be on the show next week talking about ufology or ufology and some of his books that he's written. He's always an interesting guest, and it's always draws a lot of like controversy, and it's always a lively chat because it's funny. Like Cal Korff has a lot of supporters, and then he's got a lot of haters because he bursts everybody's UFO bubbles and tells people, no, this story's bullshit, and here's why with facts and science and evidence. So it's always a controversial, fun show when Cal Korff is on. So I'm looking forward to talking to him. That's going to be next week. We've got Smoke King coming up talking about Coral Castle, and I've got a few others that I have to get to. I'd like to talk to Pragmagic about doing a show about magic and a few other people. I'm terrible at booking guests. It's just that I got to do so many things for the show, and it's so hard to do the 2 or 3 hours shows and then do research for the shows and then spend time. I'm going to try to spend at least a few hours a week just emailing people saying, can you please be a guest? We need good guests. It's funny. The Midnight Hour show, it seemed like I almost always had a guest because talking on a radio show for 2 hours by yourself is extremely difficult. Somehow it's a lot easier with this new format because we've always got people in the live chat and we can do, ask me anything, or I can just talk to the live chat and that'll make a show. But when you're on the radio and there's no audience interaction, there's nothing live about it, it's all pre-recorded. That was rough. So on my old show, I had a guest almost every week. But seriously, nobody take this the wrong way. Not to take anything away from anybody that was a guest on my audio show, radio show, podcast on the Fringe FM, but I didn't want to just do a repeat of that show with the same bunch of guests and stuff like that. I thought I want to do something new. Let's get new or different guests that we haven't had on the old show. Let's get, solo shows going where I just show research or talk about interesting stories. But now I think we've done enough that we can have some of those people. So I'll reach out to some of them. Oh, that would be good. Can we do a live panel and cover Corey Good's next appearance on Jane McCarthy show scheduled for November 17th? Wait a minute. Let me look at my calendar. Yeah, that's Tuesday, right? Hell yeah. We could do that. We could definitely do that. Yeah, and here's Pragmagic's YouTube channel. If you like strange and mysterious topics, he gets into a lot of strange and mysterious topics. I'm way behind, but I try to catch up with him. I guess the problem is I haven't been driving enough because my time to catch up with podcasts and people's shows that I like but don't have time to listen to it all is usually driving time. I just listened to C.W. Channer's latest stream on my cabin ride back. And it's interesting, like, I put it on right when I got in my car to leave the cabin, and it was over 2 minutes before I got to my house. So it was good timing. I've said this before, C.W. Channer, 2 hours, 10 minutes, that's the good time for your stream so that it fills my whole ride. Because I get pissed off if it's like an hour and a half because I can't really do things while I'm driving, like change to a different stream or a different show. But he did a really excellent analysis of this ridiculous claim by this congressman that the army invaded and stole a server from somebody related to Dominion. And it was totally bullshit. And he debunked it and busted it. And it was very, very good. Oh, yeah. The Midnight Hour, iHeartRadio. But Six is designed, it's better if I don't think all those episodes are there. Oh, there's the Bob Lazar. Yeah, Fringe FM premiere. Yeah. I don't want to get negative, but Six Design, every Midnight Hour show is supposed to be on iHeartRadio. And every Midnight Hour show is supposed to be on iTunes. And every Midnight Hour show is supposed to be on Spreaker. And they're not. I don't know how it works, but that's what I was promised. And then it turned out that they only posted a few, like the first few in various places and then stopped posting all the subsequent shows. And that may have something to do with why I'm no longer there. I'm a man of my word, and I expect others to be. But again, not to get negative. If these networks are good, first of all, if they really do what they say they're going to do. And second of all, if you need to learn how to do a show and they're willing to work with you and help you learn how to do a podcast, then a network like that is a good idea. I learned a lot. I learned that I could do a show a week. Previous to that, I would spend 2 months producing 1 2-hour show, and then I would put it on YouTube. They got me to learn that you got to work faster and smarter and produce more content than one show every 2 months. Yes, Lazar made an exception for the documentary and went back into silence. Well, Dennis Coach, except for that book that somebody ghost wrote. A lot of people don't know, but that new Bob Lazar book, John Lear has come out and said there's no way Bob Lazar wrote this because too many of the details are way off. Yeah. Genocide, was it the Coast Guard? It could have been. Come on, bro. Could have been the Coast Guard. I don't think anybody confiscated a server in Germany. I think that whole story was bullshit. But we're in the middle of election misinformation like I've never seen before in my entire life. And it's from both sides. And by the way, even C.W. Channer says things like there's no evidence of voter fraud. And the New York Times has said there's no evidence of voter fraud. And NBC, CBS, MSNBC has said there's no evidence of voter fraud. And that is entirely factually incorrect. There are thousands of affidavits of people who witnessed voter fraud. That's evidence. So you can't say there's no evidence. You might say there's no substantiated evidence. There's no proven evidence. But there's evidence. And I wish both sides, honestly, it's on both sides. I wish both sides would shut the fuck up and just let it play out. Listen, if you're on the side of Joe Biden and the left and you say there's no evidence of voter fraud, great. Then let the courts play out. Let the other side present their evidence, and then we'll see. But you can't say there's no evidence. There has never been a national election in history where there is no evidence of voter fraud. It might be small amounts of voter fraud. It might be minuscule voter fraud, like, for example, a recent widow, her husband, she knew how her husband wanted to vote, and he passed away shortly before the election. God rest his soul. This woman decided she was going to send the ballot in and vote for him. How she knew he wanted to vote, who she knew he wanted to vote for. She admitted that happened. That's voter fraud. Whether you like it or not, that's voter fraud. So for anybody saying an absolute, I don't like absolutes. You can't say there's no evidence. You can say there's no evidence of widespread voter fraud. I'm fine with that statement. But to anybody who says there's no evidence of voter fraud, you're wrong. There's all these affidavits. There's these guys there's these post office whistleblowers. You might not like the evidence, but that's evidence. If the right side is being accurate in their media portrayals that there are thousands of affidavits that they've taken, an affidavit is admissible in court as evidence, which means there's evidence. You cannot say there's no evidence. I want a free and fair election. And I'm kind of disappointed that the left hasn't said, bring the evidence, show it to us, do the recounts. That's what they should be doing if they want to prove the legitimacy of Joe Biden, of his true and accurate victory in this election. They should be saying, do the recounts, let's see any evidence of your voter fraud, and let's settle this out. We believe that it was a fair and free and fair election. So whatever evidence you have, bring it to the courts, do what you're going to do, and let's settle this. They're not saying that. In fact, and this is another thing nobody's talked about. The left went to court to try to stop people from observing the election. That's not somebody that wants to be fair. If you want a fair election, you just allow the observers. And this whole back and forth, they were 20 feet away. They were allowed, but they were 20 feet away. I don't know about you. I can't read a paper from 20 feet away and know what's going on. They should have allowed them what's called reasonable access, which means you are close enough to see exactly what's going on with the ballot counting. They didn't allow that. That right there is evidence of maybe not voter fraud, but election interference. So again, and I know I'm going to get attacked for this from certain people. It's fine. All I'm saying is there cannot be people making absolute statements. You cannot say there is no evidence of voter fraud. There's affidavits. That's admissible in court. That's evidence. So right there, your statement is wrong. 1 second, friends. I'm getting dinged here, and I'm not sure why that is. Some of you may have heard that. Let me just check in here, make sure that let's see what's up. Somebody just sent me some evidence of voter fraud. Let's just leave it at that. And listen, to be very clear, some of the stuff that's out there is total bullshit. This stuff about a server being confiscated by the U.S. Army in Germany is bullshit. That much I agree with. There's a lot of this stuff out there that's bullshit. But affidavits are evidence, there's evidence. That's all I want to say. Really, all I want to say is let's not have absolutes. The fact that the New York Times had a headline, "No evidence," is completely and totally factually wrong. And if you want to have a good time, the New York Times has sponsored ads on Twitter, like subscribe now for $5 a month or whatever. Look at the comments they're getting from people trashing them. I saw a guy who wrote on their thread about subscribe now to the New York Times. I saw a guy write, let me make sure that I say this accurately. Okay, he said, I would rather shave my balls with a broken bottle than subscribe to your rag of a bullshit newspaper. The New York Times has lost all credibility. They used to be, if it was in the New York Times, it was true. Now, they're just partisan, and they've got their agenda. They've got their base that they're trying to appeal to, which is very, very, very liberal, and they're not trustworthy anymore. And that's a sad thing for an institution that was trusted for, 70 years? I don't know how long they've been in business, but they used to be the most trusted newspaper in America. If it was in the New York Times, it was accurate. Not anymore. Now they're a rag, just printing whatever bullshit they want. Some of the stories in there are good. Some of the stories in there don't pan out to be factually accurate. And then they print a bunch of retractions, but they're making money off of both they'll do a clickbait article. They make money in all the people clicking on that article. And then, oh shit, half the stuff in this article was bullshit and we have to print a retraction. And then they make money for the retraction on ads. It's crazy that they're allowed to do that, but that's their business model now. Six of Design says, I didn't vote for either candidate. I didn't vote at all, mainly because I think all elections are rigged, whether it's obvious or not. Yeah, and listen, again, there hasn't been a national election where there was no voter fraud, probably in history. There's always a little bit. So my problem is just in people with these absolutes. Because stupid people might read that New York Times headline, no credible evidence of voter fraud, and think that's accurate and true. It's not accurate or true. There's evidence. And listen, let it play out. If Trump's really got evidence, okay, let's see it. I can't wait. Listen, for one, I want to see if Trump's going to come through with some good evidence and compelling evidence, or if he's going to look like a bigger douchebag than he already does. Either way, we get to see what is accurate about what just happened. Don't you want to know if there was like shenanigans going on, dead people voting, ballot stuffing? I sure want to know. And for those that care, like, the whole thing looks bad. You went to bed, Trump was up in all these states, they supposedly stopped counting, but then, by morning somehow they started counting again, and then the mail-in ballots, and now Biden's ahead. It doesn't look good. I'm not saying anything happened. I'm just saying that the optics of the whole election look like shenanigans were taking place. So if I were a lefty, I would say, go ahead, investigate what you're going to investigate, take the depositions, take people to court, do whatever you're going to do, and let's prove or disprove that this election was fair, because that will lead to shutting people up. Like, shut up. We took the time, we did the constitutional thing, gave you all the court stuff that you wanted to do, and still proved that Biden won. That's what they should do. Are they doing that? Not really. They're having the media and all these tech giants just say there's no evidence. There's no evidence. I don't know if the evidence is credible. I don't know if it's going to pan out, but there's at least some evidence. So I say let it pan out. All right, we've gone off in the woods here. Wondering what they will do with the yuan and remedy trade versus the dollar. Again, not playing trade, elevating house. Oh, we have a Twitch user, 23Arrow2 says hi. Hi, 23Arrow2. Good to see you in the Twitch chat. And by the way, that reminds me, if you're not already a Twitch follower, please go to twitch.tv/Truthseekers show and follow us on Twitch. 23Arrow2, please do me a favor and follow us. We're trying to get the Twitch numbers up so that we can be monetized over there. That's very, very difficult. So welcome 23Arrow2 from Twitch. I think a lot of people found issues in that nearly every mainstream media had completely different numbers. If they all had the same source, this is impossible. Yeah, some of them use the AP, but then some of them have their own proprietary software that does the projections. That's where the problem came in. Yes, someone is lying. Yeah, I believe that some people are lying. How many dead people were voting? Yeah. Mark Tirana says, get ready to get your bubble burst on Coral Castle when Smoke King gets started. Listen, I love a great mystery, and I don't think there's any absolutes because that guy died. I believe that it's highly likely that Smoke King is right in his research and his analysis of how Coral Castle was built. But there's still a possibility that he's wrong, and that dude had a sonic levitation device to lift those. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Yeah, Dennis Coach is right. He says, to be fair, New York Times accepts left and right-wing opinion editorials. The New York Post got into trouble. Washington Post has some retractions. Yeah. Retractions are a normal part of journalism, I guess. It just, to me, it seems slimy to make money off of the article and then to make money when you print the retraction. You know what I mean? It's like burning a candle at both ends. Like you made money selling lies, now you're making money correcting the lies. It doesn't seem that should be legal to me. I don't know. Hey, Karma Grays, I'm not sure. Are you the guy that's always busting a certain other show host balls? Please don't do that in my live chat. That's nasty. That's a really nasty thing to say. You know what? You get a timeout. Karma Grays. You can't say nasty shit like that. And by the way, I just realized that I think you're somebody saying even worse, awful shit on Twitter about that show host. And that's fucking. I don't even want to repeat what he says on Twitter about that show host, but it has something to do with prison sex, okay? And that's fucking wow, what a nasty fucking guy, man. Yeah. I put him in timeout. That's the first time I've had to put a user in timeout, but I don't want him to start talking about that show host and prison sex on my show. You know? Oh, wow. Jonaside timed him out earlier, too. I didn't know that. Thank you, Jonaside. I'm sure that was appropriate. Yeah, right on, brother. Yeah, come on, man. We're not going to be talking about another show host and prison sex or prison rape. And yes, Caltruth, I agree with you, but I don't want to say that on air right now. People will know that guy's always slagging that other show host. Yeah, maybe. I have thought that a few times out of mind. I have thought that. I really have. It could be, you know? And we're going to do this, friends. It's actually my first beer, but for our show, it's going to be, we're going to use our banner here. This is the last beer of Stephen Cambion. Please make sure that you like, share, and subscribe our show to our channel here. I would appreciate it. And also, please do consider supporting our show on either Patreon or a one-time donation on PayPal. There's links in the About section on our channel. We're doing the best we can to grow the show. I'm hopeful that sometime soon we're going to be streaming to more locations, and I got to get with somebody that knows more about some of these alternatives like Periscope or what is it, DLive, and I don't know. There's a bunch of them now that we're considering streaming to. I've got to ask Reamsey. Reamsey moved their channel to, I can never remember the name of that site. Moved from YouTube to another site, and I think Omnieros did as well, right? And I want to maybe look into including streaming to that new site because I checked it out and I liked that site, just the layout of it and things like that. I didn't get too deep in there, but I liked the layout of their site, and that was enough to me because I didn't like Periscope's layout or a few other ones. Yes, so this is the last beer. We're going to wrap things up shortly. I'm sorry that the presentation went too long, but I'm glad that I got some more time to get to the live chat. I don't think I shook it. I just raised it up, Dennis Coach. You don't want to shake a beer. That would be bad. Yes. Have a drink on me, Count Truth. What a jerk face. I haven't heard that term in a while. Jerk face. Yes, Mark, I agree with you that there's definitely at least some evidence of voter fraud or voter interference in the counting methods or whatever. To say there's no evidence is really an absolute. And I don't like absolute statements. It's like saying no UFO case is real. Well, a lot of them are fake, sure, but you can't say none of them are real. I just don't like absolute statements because you always got to leave open the possibility that you're wrong. Yes, and Sixes Design reminding people, think about following me on Twitter. That would be good. I would appreciate you following me on Twitter, and it's a good way to keep up with the show and know what's going on. I've been terrible lately about letting people know when the show is, which has affected our numbers, and I got to stop doing that. So I'm going to try. I'm taking a page from Jean-Claude's school of running a show. You know, he's a pro. I suck at this. He always posts a show 24 hours in advance on Twitter. I got to start doing that. I said I was going to do it before. And maybe it's like I don't know. Maybe it's like I should never mention what I'm going to do on the show because then it seems like I just don't. And then I feel like a liar and an asshole because I forget it or I don't do it. Oh yeah, Discord. Yeah, we may get to that, Dennis Coach. I have a lot of plans. I got to get to a lot of this different stuff. Cal Truth says it's been too long. I missed everyone. Yeah, and we missed you. You haven't been around. I thought you forgot about me, Cal Truth. Or you found some other show host to watch. I was getting jealous. I was like, where's she at? And besides, Cal Truth, I'm always happy. Oh, I went blurry there for a second. I'm always happy when you show up because then I'm like, well, at least it's not a total sausage party. We've got to have some ladies here. We got to have a nice balance. So I'm happy when there's ladies in the audience for sure, right? Nobody wants to go to a sausage party. Well, I guess gay dudes, right? But otherwise, yeah. My son had tons of homework, and by the time I'm done, I missed the live chats. Yeah, I'm about to have I got so upset earlier because my wife told me they're shutting down my son's school because there's a bunch of COVID cases, and they got to do contact tracing, and then they're probably shutting down his school next Monday anyway, the state. So we're back to 24/7 kids at home, and it was nice at least to have a break for a few months. These last few months, he went to school Monday through Thursday, or was it? Yeah, Monday through Thursday, 4 days a week, and he had 1 day of remote. But even 1 day of remote, special needs kids are not going to sit in front of a laptop for 6 hours. And now we got to go back to that, Cal Truth. So I got to do my first thing tomorrow. Project Veritas is only interested in money, certainly not truth. I don't know about that. I'm 50-50 on that guy. Because half of me likes and appreciates that he's actually doing real investigative, well, I don't want to even, he's doing investigative journalism. And that's something that's sorely missing in our world today. Does he have his own bias and spin? Sure. But one thing interested about Project Veritas is that he's been sued a whole shitload of times, and he's won every one of the cases. You got to respect a guy that can present these stories and then win in court every time somebody goes after him. And people have sued him a lot. Trying to get my sister to join. We'll see. Yeah. Send her our way. Cal Truth. Is that your younger sister or your older sister? Or does she look like you? Because then we definitely want her. Come, sure. Yes, Six of Design, reminding everyone, please like and subscribe. It's certainly a way to help the show. Yeah. Yes, Dennis Coach says, getting you live is a crapshoot because I'm usually busy and realize there was a show after the fact. Well, that's what replays are for. And I just do want to take a moment, Dennis, to thank you very much because Dennis is always on both Facebook and Twitter. If I post a show, he retweets it, shares it, whatever. I appreciate you doing that because that helps to spread the show. And I'm sure our numbers are better for having you helping out like that. So I appreciate it. Get an assistant and send your schedule. Dennis Coach, we're not even really paying me here. I don't think I can afford an assistant, but that would be nice. Yeah, he mixes some truth with a whole lot of spin. Why does he pick these whistleblowers that fail in the first few words into the interview? I don't trust that Clown one bit. He's scammy. Maybe. I mean, I haven't watched much of the stuff that he's done. I sure liked this when he caught Google executives talking about the bias, the liberal bias, and shadow banning, because we should know that they're doing that. And he revealed that much anyway, right? One second. Yes, Six of Design says, glad you're back, Cal. See, I'm not the only one happy to see you. We all are. Very nice to see you here in our live chat again. Well, friends, it's been a long day. I spent all day chopping wood today, and I feel like it. You know what, though? I felt good, though, doing that hard physical labor because I feel like kind of like I used to when I went to the gym and like ran on the treadmill, lifted some weights, because that's kind of like good cardio. And I felt like I had a good workout, like an 8-hour workout today and the day before that. It's hard work processing firewood. So, I think a lot of people glamorize this off-grid thing, like even me, I've said things like, why should I pay somebody to heat my house? I can just process firewood and heat my house myself with a wood burner. But saying it and doing it is two entirely, it is not easy to process enough firewood to get through a winter. All that cutting with the chainsaw and your arms shaking all, for 5 hours while you're cutting all these logs up into smaller logs. And then I don't have a wood splitter like a machine. I have to do it with an axe. Well, a splitting maul, but it's an axe, whatever. So I processed 2 cords of firewood by myself this weekend. And for those that don't know, a cord of firewood is just a cubic measurement. It's by volume. So a cord is 4 foot wide by 4 foot high by 8 feet long. I processed 2 cords of firewood by myself, or I think 2 cords. I could be wrong. At least a cord and a half. It's a lot of firewood to hand chop. The chopping was worse than the sawing. The sawing, I have a chainsaw, but yeah. Yeah. Isn't building a cabin a good work? Oh, yeah. That's how I stay thin, bro. I don't need a gym. I gave up on the gym as soon as I bought that place because I'm chopping wood, carrying logs around, dragging logs from the woods all the way back to the cabin because I need a piece of that log to make the cabin. And yeah. Oh, out of mind with a good advice. Have a great week, everyone. Just to mention, we are beginning on another shortage of many goods available. Stock up if you can. Toilet papers are already gone here. Everybody's scared of these new lockdowns. So people are hoarding stupid shit like toilet paper. Toilet paper is the least of my worries if I can't get things. You can always find something, right? Splits are easier when frozen, Stephen. Yeah, but I don't want to be outside when it's freezing. So I try to do it right around now, right? Conspiracy, when it's like, if it's like between 40 and 50, to me, that's my ideal firewood processing temperature. Because I could go out there in just a hoodie, and as long as I keep moving, I'm not cold at all throughout the whole day. But I'm also not sweating my ass off. Like I would never do it in the summer or later or late spring or early fall. But right around now, it's a good time. I don't want to be out there scrounging. Last year I was out there, I didn't do a good job. So I was out there scrounging for firewood every weekend. Not every weekend, but after the first like 3 or 4 weekends, I ran out of wood. I didn't make enough. I didn't process enough. I didn't fill the woodshed enough. This year I'm filling that thing as much as possible. Yeah, William Shatner's 89, and he cut his own wood up until a few years ago. He's so rich, he doesn't have to, too. So for him to decide to do it, it's because, you know what? Here's the other thing that is, listen, processing firewood is like meditative because you're just doing, like, you have a lot of time to think, too. I think that's why a lot of people like it. And there's something zen about splitting that firewood, too. I really feel like it's almost like meditation. You're just splitting big logs into smaller logs all day long. You got a lot of time to think. Yeah, Shatner mentioned that on Twitter podcast, so it may have just come to mind. Yeah, good. Six Design, I don't know how many cords of wood I did as a kid. Oh my, a lot. It certainly made me strong, that's for sure. Yeah, I think hard work is good for the soul. And somebody on Twitter commented on my Twitter post and said something like, backbreaking work is good for your soul not breaking, or something like that. I have to look again. Yeah, so friends, I appreciate each and every one of you that came here to go on this journey with us. I think we had a good show about free energy, and then we got to catch up and talk about a bunch of different topics on the back end, of the show, which is always good. I don't want to do 2.5 hours just about the topic. So, we had an hour presentation tonight. We had plenty of time for the live chat, which I'm always good for. I like to make sure that you guys get my attention and my participation. I'm always glad for yours. Definitely always glad for your participation, because that, it just makes the show. I so like this better than a radio show that's pre-recorded and no audience interaction. It's always great to come here, see who shows up, see who we interact with, right? Who has thoughts to share, who has comments or questions. It's always good for me to come here and spend some time with you. And I'm glad that you can come here and spend some time with me. You can do anything with your time. So I'm always grateful when there's an audience here to share this journey with me. We'll be continuing our coverage of some free energy things. We've got Smoke King coming up, a show on the Cash Landrum incident. I'm trying to get Lee Veltman to come on and talk about Q, and he said he'd do it 10 times, but we never schedule it, so I'm going to work on that because I want to see what he thinks. Like, what is going to happen with these Q people now? Where are they going to go? What are they going to believe, right? Yeah, and we've got a lot of cool things coming up, so please stay tuned. We're going to wrap things up here, friends. So until next time, my name is Stephen Cambion. Good night, and God bless.